Discussion today will focus on the dynamics of supply and demand of the regional satellite industry. All of us know, and the previous presentation touched upon this, the role that satellites play in the broadcasting and telecommunications industry. They carry and deliver media and content to billions of people across the globe. They also enable voice and data connectivity for the telecommunications industry, facilitating mobile services, machine-to-machine connectivity, and access to rural locations, ships, and aircraft where terrestrial alternatives are unfeasible. In fact, I would go so far to say that they are the silent workhorses of the industries. In the past few years, the satellite industry has demonstrated healthy and sustained growth, expanding at an 11% growth rate from USD 106 billion to USD 177 billion. The interesting fact is the industry has outpaced the global economy, which has grown at a rate of 7% over the same time frame. Now, what are the drivers of growth? To date, video and content distribution has been the primary driver of growth for the industry. 80% of the revenues of the satellite industry was generated by consumer TV and DTH. However, in recent years, there have been technological advances, and these have facilitated the emergence of additional services such as high-speed broadband. So what next for the satellite industry? The panel today aims at examining the key global and regional market trends in the satellite industry, understanding the future growth opportunities, and discussing actions that can be taken by satellite operators in the MENA region to deliver sustainable growth. Our distinguished panel is comprised of extremely knowledgeable and vastly experienced satellite experts in the MENA region, and I will introduce them to you. We are joined this afternoon by Mr. Shawkat Ahmed. Mr. Shawkat is the Chief Commercial Officer of Yahsat. He also serves as the Chairman of YahLive, the new satellite broadcasting venture between SES Astra and Yahsat. We are also joined by Mr. Mohammed Mehyar. Mr. Mohammed has over 24 years of sales and marketing experience, and we have just found out that he has also been allocated the business development portfolio for Eshailsat. In addition to the business development portfolio, he serves as the regional sales director, and he is responsible for planning and executing Eshailsat's sales objective. Mr. Ali Korur is the regional vice president at Eutelsat, responsible for the newly opened subsidiary company in Dubai that covers MENA, Azerbaijan, Turkey, and Afghanistan. He also serves as the chairman of the executive committee of Skylogic Eurasia in Istanbul, which specializes in broadband services for SMEs, large industrial conglomerates, and government agencies. And we are joined by Mr. Nabil Shanti, a seasoned satellite and telecommunications veteran with over 25 years of experience in the industry. He is the vice president and chief commercial officer at Arabsat, one of MENA's region's largest satellite operators. With this, I will pause and I will invite the panel members to give us their perspectives on the supply and demand trends of the industry. I will start with Shawkat.
Thank you, Abhijit. First of all, a brief introduction about our company. We are a satellite operator based out of Abu Dhabi. We have launched 2 satellites, Y1A and Y1B, 2 years back. and they've been operational over Africa, Middle East, and Central Asia. So our first satellite was the first hybrid satellite launched in the region. We carry a government payload and a commercial payload, mainly suitable for IP trunking, GSM backhauling, and corporate data application in C-band, which is being used by companies like Caprock Harris in Africa, as well as Airtel in Africa for backhauling. We also have a customer based out of Miami, EMC, using this for their NGO segment. Besides that, on our first satellite, we have a joint venture payload with SES Astra, where we basically are focusing on high definition TV content for the Middle Eastern region. On a second satellite, which is Y1B, we are using the latest technology which Abhijit referred to, the multi-spot beam Ka band technology, which enables us to derive high throughput from that payload. And today we have launched services in more than 10 countries, especially over Africa and Middle East, where our customers are using it for their home as well as business broadband service. So I guess that's the introduction, and we'll talk about it more later.
Thank you, Abhijit, for this introduction. Let me start, as my colleague Shawkat talk about my company, Eshailsat. Actually, Eshailsat was born as a need for our national vision, which is to 2030. This vision actually entails of 4 pillars. It is the human development, the social development, the economic development, and the environmental one. When we are talking about economic development, we need to talk about the ICT sector in the scale of state of Qatar. Actually, when we go through all our needs in the state of Qatar, we found out that we need to be separately serviced by a satellite. For that reason, we go in partnership with our colleague here with Eutelsat to have our own satellite to provide services that the Qatar community and business and the commercial base we need it most. So this is simply, this is the start of Eshailsat. Eshailsat now, they are partnering, as I mentioned earlier, with Eutelsat in the same satellite in the orbital position 25.5, which is very close to our friends in Arabsat. Knowing that there is a half degree in the distance, that means 300 kilometers or around 300 kilometers. So we are complementing our needs in the notion that we're still providing services to the government sector, the commercial sector within the Qatar state, and this is to start with. We are expecting to launch our satellite in this summer. We say it in summer, but we know that it will be around August. It will be operational around November. It would be like this. And the story will begin from that point. This is briefly how we can say. We are serving the TV customer sectors and the telecom sectors in different payload, which we call it mission. We have different mission, which is mission 1, which is the KU, and we have a military mission, which is the Ka band, and we have another steerable beam, the Ka band, which is its focus over Qatar, again, to serve the needs of the telecom sector in Qatar, and the other one is steerable. We can point it whenever the eye of the satellite can reach. And the fourth one is the MENA region Ka band mission 4. We hope that we were going to launch our satellite successfully and we start serving our needs effectively.
Thank you, Mohammed. Ali.
Thank you very much. Since our colleague in the previous speaker has already mentioned about our capacities, Eutelsat satellites. I just like to only underline our mission to come to the region. We like to be more close to our distributors and clients to share our experiences on the broadcasting and the data services and provide them more closely our consultancy and services and especially on the broadcast side, increasing demand in the region for the direct-to-home and managed broadcast services, which requires more consultancy and services to our customers. On the data side as well, the since B2B, B2C services in some region in some countries are abundant or cancelled, we give more importance on the government and the public services like in school projects and government government services, which highly requires working together with the end users. So we will able to give closely those services from the region. So that is for the moment. We will go details.
Thank you. Nabil.
Thank you. Actually, we are in Arabsat. We are, I think everybody knows Arabsat. Anyway, we have been established, or first satellite has been launched in 1985. Actually, we are an intergovernmental organization who is run in purely commercial basis. We have now, we own actually now six transponders. Six satellites at 3 orbital positions or 4 orbital positions. We own those orbital positions, and we have all rights on those orbital positions. At 20 degrees east, we have a satellite that covers the full Europe, full Africa and Middle East and West Asia, and it covers the let's say the Middle East in Ka band, and that satellite has been launched just last year, and it is fully utilized. Now we have 26 degrees, which is the main, which is our hotspot for TV distribution, and as you know, this is the first hotspot in the Middle East, and it carries now around 500 channels. We have 3 satellites at that orbital position. In addition, in all bands, in C band, Ku band, and BSS bands. But it is this location actually mainly is assigned for TV distribution. In addition to that, we have at 30.5 degree east, we have Arabsat 5A, which has different type of coverages, different type of bands, which covers the whole Arab world, in addition to parts of Africa and West Asia. We have plans to launch satellite at 34 degree east and at 44 degree east. In addition to that, we have one satellite now under manufacturing. That satellite, which will have also different type of coverages that we have. Usually we have the MENA coverage in one spot, but in that satellite we have split it. In addition to the MENA, we have 2 major spots, one over the eastern part of the Arab world, the other one is in the western part of the Arab world. In addition to Ka band payload, which we have the right of at 26 degree east, which will cover in addition to the Ka BSS. So recently we have, I think everybody has seen that in the market. We have acquired Yahsat, and also at the same time we are planning to build another 2 satellites, which will be maybe within the coming 2 years or 3 years. So the future, I think, is promising, and I know that there are a lot of competitors, a lot of operators, and covering the MENA. MENA, actually, there are 16 satellites, by the way, 16 satellite system covering Middle East and Africa. So imagine how much, what are the type of competition, but Arabsat, in spite of that, we have last year a growth of 24%, unprecedented, and we are proud of that, and I think we are providing the service to our customers in a full way and with excellent service. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nabil. Fascinating. 4 industry experts representing 4 premier institutions in the Middle East, 2 more established and 2 emerging, so I hope we get a debate going soon. I'm going to pick your brains on a variety of topics, and we will also request the audience to come forth with their questions or any points they want to discuss. Let's start with broadcast. It's one of the major themes. DTH has historically been the primary driver of growth in the satellite industry, and the previous presentation by the CCO of Eutelsat also alluded to it. We also looked at the numbers, the forecast increases in that. In fact, in 2011, approximately 80% of the 108 billion in global revenue from satellite services was generated by consumer satellite TV. My question to the panel is, do you expect this trend to continue going forward? Is this the same growth rates we'll see as we move forward? If yes, why? What are the underlying drivers? If not, then why not? May I request we start with Mohammed, if you could share your views on this.
Thank you. Actually, the trend will continue until around 2018. The reason why this trend will continue, because the high demand on the HD content and the ultra HD content, which is the fashion nowadays for the TV broadcasters. When we talk about the HD and the ultra HD, we are talking about high capacity comparing with the SD. And in the same time, all the TV broadcasters, all the TV stations won't jeopardize or give away their SD transmission for the favor of HD unless they make sure that there is a market for HD. Consequently, they will have dual illumination with HD and SD. Actually, this is the main factor that I see it personally, that the trend would be booming until 2018. The other thing, and it's very interesting, and all the observers can see it, now the fad for the TV broadcasters, it's a little bit different. We used to have one TV channel for example, MENA region. Now the scenario has been changed. We are witnessing in different countries within the MENA region that there is a channels called national or regional. For example, in the Gulf region, you can find a TV channel customized for the Gulf region, and you can name it, and the list is tall. In the Maghreb, our colleague, they say it, in Eutelsat, you can find that there is a TV dedicated for that region. And this, actually, the evolution of the high throughput satellite, because to minimize the cost when you are broadcasting to that region. And this would be doubling the capacity, and when the standard of liberalization of each country, according the media, would be liberalized and give more chance to the player to come. After 2018, we're gonna find a technology development which is in the compression side. The HEVC would eliminate the need for the broadcaster, the adaptation of the HEVC, which is widely adopted, would eliminate the capacity that any TV broadcaster would need. And that make the trend will go slope down again. In addition, that this standard or compression mode would be a replacement to MPEG 2 and MPEG 4. Knowing that even the DBVS2 would help in reducing the need for the TV broadcasters for a capacity, although it's a lower extent comparing with HEVC. Thank you.
Thank you. Shawkat, your views on DTH?
In my opinion as well, DTH is going to be the predominant revenue driver for the satellite industry in the next 5 to 6 years. And again, we have a lot of demand for high definition and ultra high definition services. So that would contribute a lot in the satellite sector would be one, the government-driven applications for military need. So we're seeing more and more countries now for the secure satellite communications, they're launching their own satellites. So that's a space to watch out for. And the other application is the mobility. So we have seen a lot of announcements in the last 12 months where some major players have now launched or signed for high throughput Ka-band satellites, which would be mainly focusing on applications like maritime, where you don't have any other option, as well as aviation. So the broadband systems that are available today in airplanes are, delivered through satellite, and this trend is going to continue. And as Ka-band evolves further, so I feel in the next 5 to 6 years, the contribution of Ka-band applications in the overall the pie of satellite industry will grow further.
Thank you. You've actually, so 3 things: mobility, government, and DTH.
Right.
Thank you. Ali, your views on DTH. I have a specific question on satellite broadband. I'll come to that later. But in the meantime, we'll get Ali's views on DTH.
Actually, my friends already mentioned many aspects of this satellite DTH requirement, but just to emphasize a few others actually, starting from 2012 until 2015, we shall immigrate the ST channels, standard channels, to HD, and at the same time frame in 2016, we'll start broadcasting 4K channels, which requires a tremendous capacity on the broadcast sectors. And another things we have noticed during the so-called Arab Spring, and all the major broadcasters noticed that they need protection from the intentional jamming and search possibility for focused GORT coverages, which uplinked from a different area than the MENA region. So that DTH broadcasting also emerge the diversity and the backup uplink sites and earth stations, which requires the additional capacities in the DTH broadcasting. The other issue is following up in the United States and Europe towards analog television to the DTT, terrestrial digital, which is more or less more depending on the, or based on the DTH technology, which distributes the signal to the terrestrial headends, as well as contributing the unreached locations directly from satellite. And the other important area on the data from the same Arab Spring, and also you can generalize on the globalization of the economy, which makes essential also enlarging the democratization of the overall world. Requires governments invest in more public sectors communication, e-government projects that the people can, the governments can reach the people where they are to bring their services on the spot in order to give better education or better information in the health sector and in the service sector. And with the stability of the region, and more security measures are taken by the military, police, and the government security services, which requires more broadband connections from the field to the general control centers that also emerge extra and new capacities. For example, in the region, the Arab video exchange services based on the intelligent IP networking over satellite are also emerging fast video transfers from the broadcasting premises to the neighboring countries and different broadcasting services. So this will still, I am pretty sure, increase the use of satellite, especially on the broadcast, but definitely on the broadband data services as well.
Thank you. Let's hold on, Nabil. I'll come back to you with a specific question on broadcast and HD, but let's stick to the theme of broadband. I have a question. What exactly is the potential for satellite broadband services in the MENA region? What is the true potential? In your view, why are satellites ideally suited to meet the data connectivity needs of both consumers and enterprise, specifically in Middle East and Africa? And what speeds could be realistically achieved? I would like to get Shawkat's view on this, please.
So I guess we need to put things in perspective first of all. So what has happened in the last 5 years globally is the introduction of this new technology where you can now derive much more capacity out of a satellite. So we're talking about in capacity in the region of 150 gigabits per second, while earlier it was close to 4 or 5 gigabits per second. So because of this, in the US now there are two major operators who are adding between 30 to 40,000 broadband users per week. And actually for the last quarter, their growth rate has been higher than the terrestrial operators in the US. So in the US now we have 1.2 million broadband users who use this new technology. And both those operators have signed for 2 new satellites because they'll be running out of capacity. So by 2015, it is anticipated in United States, which is the best connected, the most advanced country in the world in terms of technology, we'll have 4.5 million users on satellite broadband. And again, the same technology has been adopted by Eutelsat in Europe, where they're growing rapidly. We have also recently heard that the Australian government is launching 2 satellites, over Australia with the same technology. We were the pioneers to launch this in Middle East and Africa. And we, as I mentioned, we've already launched this, and the results are very positive. So what has happened for the first time, in the satellite industry, we have price points which are comparable to terrestrial services. So in the US, those services are available at around $30 to $40 per month. And in our case also, we start at around the same price point, which is between $20 to $30 in our markets. And the biggest advantage, which we have over terrestrial coverage is, the satellite covers almost the entire country. So there is no extra investment in reaching the underserved areas. We've heard from many panelists since morning that there's a lot of investment being made to build more 3G towers and roll out more LTE networks, because primarily the networks are getting congested. So in the US, what's happening is in many areas now, some 3G customers have started moving to satellite broadband as well, because in our case, obviously, we have much higher capacity per beam, and we also basically don't have to make any extra investment in reaching those remote areas. So this is a new revolution in the satellite industry. And from our experience so far in Middle East and Africa, we also feel there'll be a lot of demand for such services. And there are many other players like Arabsat, like Eutelsat, who are also bringing more capacity. So in the Middle East, we've so far launched in Iraq. We've also launched, in Central Asia, Turkey. We've launched in Afghanistan. We are launching in Yemen on 9th of June. So there's been a very healthy take-up for the service. So basically, we start from 1 meg service, but we can deliver all the way up to 20 megs, on a small modem, which is similar to your terrestrial modem. And the antenna, is 75 centimeter size, very easy to install, just like any TV antenna. Basically, our service partners on the ground are also providing this equipment on lease. So you don't have to buy those terminals. So in many countries, we have upfront cost, which is again very similar to terrestrial services. So in summary, we kind of are now seeing in many countries satellite services at similar price points and complementing terrestrial services, especially in areas where you have heavily congested 3G networks. That's where we will be able to offer cost-effective, reliable, and high performance, because we don't have so many users. In our case, when we advertise 15 megs, we've seen so far 85% or more time the customer achieves 15 megabit per second.
Thanks, Shawkat. Interesting comment about comparable price points compared to terrestrial options. I may come back to you on that. I'm going to pose 2 more questions to the panel, and then I'll give an opportunity, open the floor for the audience to ask their questions or any comments to the panel. The first question, perhaps Nabil, we could start with you, is we have discussed operators banking on the increased demand for high resolution TV and now even ultra HD channels to drive future demand for transponders. At the same time, there are developments in compression technology, and these are continuously evolving, and Mohammed alluded to it during his previous point. These will potentially reduce bandwidth requirements. Is this a credible concern for satellite operators going forward, let's say beyond the 2018 timeframe?
Thank you. Actually, this question related to the previous, which my friends talked about, which is about the capacity, about the high definition, about the capacity requirements. The demand for the capacity, for TV capacity actually in the Middle East, in Middle East, in the Arab world actually is motivated by first there is media liberation in the Arab world, which followed the Arab Spring, and also due to the Arab Spring there are a huge demand for contributions. So this requires more demand. In addition to that, HD also requires higher demand. Now for example, in Arabsat now we have more than 70 channels, high definition, and recently we launched our MyHD bouquet or MyHD network, and that requires immediate 6 to 8 transponders. So there is a huge demand for the high definition, bigger growth, and also the media liberation. That we see that it will continue for at least, as Nashat said, Shawkat said, I think it is for at least 5 to 7 years to come. Therefore, in addition to that we Arabsat, by the way, since 3 or 4 years before the Arab Spring, we have a kind of what people call anti-jamming. Actually, it is not anti-jamming, but it is a kind of, we have KA uplinking, down KU downlink. So we can use that way to prevent jamming from being achieved. And this is it has run on Arabsat actually, and Al Jazeera is using one of those transponders. In the coming years, we will have in our satellites, we will have again most of transponders are they have capability of having KA up, KU down, so that to prevent the jamming. Now, regarding your direct question about the growth, is it going to be continuous? I think we noticed that certain customers recently they are asking for having a coverage covering certain area. Although we have all the Arab world, we are covering the Arab, but there are demands for example, covering only Saudi Arabia. Therefore, we have, for example, another spot we have built in our new satellite for the KABSS that covers only Saudi Arabia. That actually the driver for that is the advertising business, and we see that NBC is asking the same. So the demand is changing its shape. The demand is making there is demand, but the demand is different from the demand which was 10 years ago. So I expect that the growth will continue, and the TV business will be the most driver revenue generating driver in the satellite industry in the region. Although we have, by the way, just for information, in Arabsat we have 60% revenue are generated from TV and 40% are generated from telecom. But I think with our new launches it will be 50-50 because we have it is telecom actually more oriented. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much. I'll just pause for a second. I'll come back to you, Ali, on a specific question. But I want to ask the audience, do you have any questions for the panel members? Any comments, any points you want to discuss? Over to you. It's that time of the day, I guess. No questions? Anybody from the audience? No? Okay, fine. I have two more. I'm conscious of the time, so I have two more questions, very briefly. Ali, there was discussion about non-linear TV viewing, IPTV and other on-demand OTT services. What are your views on the growing prominence of such non-linear TV viewing? Do you think they are going to impact video services and subsequently transponder demand going forward? And what are operators currently doing or thinking about doing to counter this challenge, if at all it is a challenge?
The IPTVs.
Non-linear TV viewing.
Non-linear TVs.
Do you think this is of significance? There's a lot of talk about this. Or do you think it is still insignificant at this stage? And would it impact?
The different way of broadcasting the television channels and content will definitely depend on the viewers' ability to receive those things in the region. The connected TVs are now is launched from many satellite and broadcasters to their subscribers. But in general, what is really important is the end user TV sets, how they are equipped with the new technologies. We see that in some cases, Samsung or LG, all these new flat televisions are equipped with the connection of the internet and broadband, which will provide the contents through the television without customers, the viewers noticed so much. It is an IP through the IP, or the normally it's broadcasted on the MPEG. So I think this will evolve even further with the new technologies and merge the broadband and TV broadcasting in the same user equipments.
Thank you. Last question for me, and it is for you, Mohammed. The industry is clearly dominated by the top 4 satellite operators that have generated around 70% of global industry revenue and operate approximately 50% of the satellites. As someone who represents an emerging operator in the MENA region, I would like to get your perspective on how do you counter this competitive dynamics, and how do you grow sustainably going forward?
Actually, a very interesting question, as it tells the whole story. Previously, when Arabsat, the first satellite operator in MENA region, had been established, was as a reaction for one need, that to be independent of providing the MENA region and the Arab services through our own satellites. The big players, and with all of our respects, were dominating more than the ratio that have previously presented in the presentation. Actually, if you need to provide any services, you have to go to A, B, C, one of the big giants. Actually, the trigger of Arabsat was a phenomenon in the history of telecom and the ICT sector in the MENA region. And the story started going on. Each nation, each region in the Arab world start to have evaluated needs they need to meet, and not because of the shortage of Arabsat, but for a specific need at that time. You find nowadays there is Yahsat, you find Eshailsat, and other Nilesat as well. Those was the trigger and the continuation of the story. Now, the story become shorter in the sense that within the same country, you're gonna find needs that can't met in the standard and the SLA that expected from the stakeholders. And this is again for Eshailsat. Eshailsat actually, there's a very interesting fact that the Qatari TV content and which is delivered through the other satellite is always number 2 in revenue for across the board. So we have vertical expansion to the limit that we need to meet our needs according to Qatar Vision in the year 2030 or for the World Cup to 2022. To make it brief, we found out that no satellite operator can understand the uniqueness of our needs, and this is why Eshailsat, with the launching of Eshail-1, was created. And we hope by launching of Eshail-1, and by the way, it's the first dot of the story. It's not only Eshail-1. Nowadays, as we speak, we are talking about X numbers of satellites within 6 years. So we are talking about tremendous investment of millions of dollars down the way that really, I think, and I strongly believe, will change the scenario of the whole game in the providing satellite services for TV and for the trunking. No more that service would be dominated by X or Y or Z satellite operator. We have our own satellites, we do understand our needs, and we'll go forward to achieve it.